Now, trouble is brewing in D.C. tonight over President Obama's pick to be the next defense secretary. Now, as Republican senators temporarily blocked a vote on Chuck Hagel's nomination that was earlier today, delaying the vote until late February. Now, Republicans say it is premature to close the debate over the nominee and say that before any confirmation vote will take place, they want answers from Hagel and the White House about what exactly President Obama was doing the night of the Benghazi terror attack that killed a U.S. ambassador and 3 other Americans. It's the first time a filibuster of a cabinet nominee has been used, and needless to say, this marks a major win for the GOP and a pretty embarrassing defeat for the president. And joining me now with reaction from the American Center for Law and Justice, Jay Sekulow, Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. I don't always agree with Leon Panetta, Juan, but I respect Leon Panetta, and he said about the sequestration cuts that it's going to hollow our military and devastate our national security. Yeah. Chuck Hagel says, well, the budget's bloated. That's what he said. Then when you look at U.S. missile defense, he was against it. Unilaterally wants to disarm America of nukes, sanctions against Iran, his controversial comments on Israel, and I can go on. He gave probably the worst hearings that I've ever seen in my life, Juan, in my lifetime. Why shouldn't they be scrutinizing this? This is an important time in terms of world history and in terms of defense.
Well, you must have missed the news here. The news is that Republicans said that in a week they basically will vote to end the cloture, end the filibuster, and approve Chuck Hagel. So nobody in this town thinks that there's any chance that Chuck Hagel, 1, is either going to resign, or 2, going to be denied the office of Secretary of Defense.
That doesn't mean he's the right man for the job,
is a political game.
I'm sorry, whatever goes on in that town necessarily probably means the rest of the country would disagree. Let me show both of you how bad these hearings were. We have highlights of Hagel during these hearings. He looked terrible. It was embarrassing. Watch this.
Name one person, in your opinion, who's intimidated by the Israeli lobby in the United States Senate.
Well, first,
name one.
I don't know.
When you said that the surge would be the most dangerous foreign policy blunder in this country since Vietnam, were you correct or incorrect? Yes or no?
My reference to the surge being the most dangerous.
Senator Hagel, the question is, were you right or wrong? That's a pretty straightforward question.
Well,
I would like to answer whether you were right or wrong, and then you are free to elaborate.
Well, I'm not going to give you a yes or no.
Why do you think that the Iranian Foreign Ministry so strongly supports your nomination to be the Secretary of Defense?
I have a difficult enough time with American politics, Senator. I have no idea.
Do you think it's appropriate for the chief civilian leader of the U.S. military forces to agree with the statement that both the perception, quote, and the reality is that the United States is, quote, the world's bully?
I didn't hear her say that, by the way, the United States. And I think my comment was it's a relevant and good observation. I don't think I said that I agree with it.
Jay Sekulow, your reaction?
Well, look, if I went to the Supreme Court of the United States and had a performance like Chuck Hagel had before the Senate committee, it would be a disaster. So Chuck Hagel's response was a disaster. And, of course, the most famous line that he has is the one where he said, look, there's a lot of things I don't know about various aspects of the Secretary of Defense's role and various Department of Defense protocols, but I'll learn on the job. You know, one of the things, and I disagree with Juan on this. Look, I mean, will the filibuster be broken a week? I don't know if they're going to break it or not, but I'll tell you this much. In Washington, D.C., and Juan knows this as well as anybody, in Washington, D.C., a week is a lifetime. And when these speeches, let's get to the merits of what Chuck Hagel really believes. When you get to the merits of it, how can anyone in good conscience really accept his view that we should have a consulate in Tehran, which is what he basically has been, not basically, he did advocate. And his position on the Jewish, he called it, by the way, the Jewish lobby, which is really disparaging. Then he tried to correct it and say the Israeli lobby, as if that was some kind of technique he was using. Of course, Lindsey Graham really dealt with that. But the reality is, Sean, you don't get away with those kind of statements, and he shouldn't as Secretary of Defense.
All right, Juan.